I'm Aleks Webster. My business is Integrated Presence. Within Integrated Presence, the services I offer are alchemical hypnotherapy, essential oils coaching, and REIKI. Those three modalities can really help deal with trauma, peak performance, all sorts of things to get underneath in the subconscious mind to discover the blocks that may be there that keeps us from doing things, and then to move through them and find different solutions and resources. I'm in business because I love the work I do. I love helping people. I love figuring out ways to find the metaphor, the right storyline to help people break through their own blockages, their own doubts, resistance to really succeeding and being their authentic self. Integrated presence, that's an interesting question. That we can't really be our authentic selves without being present in the moment. So, when we have traumas, when we have doubts or, those niggly thoughts that happen in our minds, it's really hard to be present with ourselves and then therefore present in life and with our relationships. So it was really about how do we become present in the moment? And then, when we go through trauma, when we have experiences, maybe a bad childhood, maybe, we've been in a battle and war, those things really, we kind of put them off on the shelf, and then therefore we're not integrated in who we are. So trying to pull the pieces together and to really find the healing within that present moment and in an integrated self was how the name was birthed. Alchemical hypnotherapy is really about getting underneath the trauma, underneath the behavior, so that we can find the thought process or the emotional content that happens right before we decide that that particular behavior is going to be the one that saves us, the one that soothes us, the one that's going to take us away from our pain. So we really go into the pain and then find the inner resources that can help resolve and find resolution and solution to the pain. And it's an interactive process. So there's a lot of guided imagery, metaphor. Sometimes somebody will go into an inner child memory and they want Superman to come and help them out. Why not? Who doesn't want their own Superman? I think that's a great solution to childhood trauma. So that's really the difference between alchemical hypnotherapy and some of the regular hypnosis. So the essential oils, I bring those in because scent will take us right back to a memory very easily. Like one of my favorite scents is like falling snow or cinnamon rolls. That just takes me right back to being on the ski area when I grew up, or in my grandmother's home baking cinnamon rolls. But we can also have the opposite of that. They can be memories that are very traumatic. And so therefore, using the essential oils can help the person go into an old memory, and it can also help them resolve it, because the scent, if you have a really pure grade essential oils, they have found that in between 3 seconds and 20 minutes, depending upon the oil, that substance can go through your entire body and have impact. So the essential oils are a very powerful tool to help with what goes on in that subconscious mind. And then the Reiki is all about the energy body. So we're finding more and more that as we go through trauma, and even if it's just a little thing, we hold that in our body, but then we also hold that energy in our energetic body. So Reiki really moves the energy. It allows the life force energy to come in and kind of break the dams in the river, so that you also have, you have the physical healing, but then you also have that energy body healing. So with all three of those together, it ends up being a really powerful team of resources for the client to move through and to become their authentic self. So yeah, attention equals power. What that's all about is what we give our attention to is what we give our power to. So if I'm sitting here and I'm focusing all my attention on, poor me, I'm not enough, I'm a terrible bad person, guess what? The world is going to provide many opportunities to prove me right. But if we give our attention to a different voice, I call those the the little nigglies, the itty bitty shitty committee that tells us, how bad we are, how poorly we're doing. If we can bring our attention away from those, and this is like the act of the warrior, this is a really courageous act to do, to say, no, I'm good, I am beautiful, I am powerful. Then we start seeing that the world gives us opportunities to have that reflected back to us. So what we give our attention to is really what we give our power to, and therefore by shifting that, we can change our whole entire reality. So trauma, basically what we give our attention to is being the victim side of that. What could we have done different? Why didn't our parents save us? What was wrong? I know in my own story, I grew up Catholic, and my big complaint, or the one that I focused on, was, why didn't God save me? If God was this benevolent person, and cared about me, why didn't God save me from the abuse I was experiencing? And so that was the tape that I ended up rewinding in my mind a lot, and have come to really heal that part. So when we are in trauma, we tend to focus on what happened and how could it have been different, and then it impacts us because that's what we end up focusing on. And so therefore we reiterate the victim story over and over and over again. And if we change that, if we start thinking, okay, I went through this event, and what did I learn from it? How did it make me the person I am? We can't ever take away the traumatic event, the experience, but what we can do is change our relationship to it. We can change our attitude and approach to it. And when we can do that and say, yes, this happened, and basically, how do I make lemonade out of this lemon situation? We can really change, again, who we are in the world, what our relationship is to ourselves and those around us, and even how we interact with life in general, which is a really powerful thing. The hypnotherapy takes you through guided imagery and trance. Trance, first of all, is really just a relaxed state. So oftentimes when we're driving down the freeway and we get to a point and we don't remember how we got there, that's a level of trance. We fall in love, that's trance. We watch TV and we get so engrossed in a show, that's a level of trance. So really we're going into a very medium state of trance. You're aware of what's going on the whole time. It's interactive. And in that relaxation, we get out of that critical observer mind. And therefore, we can find the place within the subconscious mind where there's solution. All things are possible in the subconscious mind. We see things away from just the blinders on and see other possibilities. And the other really important thing about the subconscious mind is it deals with metaphor. It talks to us in story form. So therefore, we can move through the trauma, not really removed, but in a way that has power. So all of a sudden, you might find a person who has gone through trauma experiencing themselves as a falcon, but the falcon's tied to the perch and can't fly anymore. And in just releasing the leather bonds around the falcon's feet is enough to change the whole storyline of the trauma itself, because now that victim mentality has been given the power to change. And even though it's a picture inside the subconscious mind, the body, the emotions, everything start to react to that difference and the story that's in the body and in the mind. So it changes. It just moves through. It's similar to watching a movie and all of a sudden crying. You're not going through the storyline. You're not going through the traumatic event. You're not going through the marriage proposal, but yet we have empathy. And so that happens inside when we tell our own stories for healing. Well, alchemy is a word that was used in many, many centuries ago, and it was all about changing lead into gold. And the alchemists at the time were also chemists, so the real purpose of the alchemy was not to really change lead into gold, but it was more about consciousness. And when the church and everything suppressed that, the alchemists made the metaphor of turning lead into gold. So really they were looking at those base emotions of fear, anger, whatever keeps us in a less than state? And how do we turn that into a higher state of awareness, a higher state of consciousness, or gold? So alchemical hypnotherapy is really looking at that. How do we take the experiences that take energy away from us, that rob our life force energy, our positive attitude, and turn it into a much higher consciousness? So David Quigley, who is the founder of alchemical hypnotherapy, has pulled in knowledge from Carl Jung, Fritz Perls, Mesmer, a lot of different sources to really look at archetypal energies. And what we want to do is empower the client to find their own internal resources. That could be a band of angels, it could be superheroes, it could be a new inner father, a new inner mother, all sorts of different things. And it's only limited by the client's own imagination. And so therefore, we don't want clients that keep coming back to us and looking to external sources for their healing, because we really, once we get out of our own way, we have the natural ability to heal ourselves. And so that's what we're really looking to do, is to empower clients through their own internal resources to do just that. So there are many ways alchemical hypnotherapy can help. A lot of the first initial sessions are really going in and rescuing the inner child, whether it's from abuse, neglect, abandonment, bullying, many different things. So we go in and we rescue that child, because a child can't rescue themselves usually and have no power inside of that kind of situation. So we might, send whoever the abuser is off to jail, or, maybe put them off on a deserted island where they're stuck and they can't talk or hurt anybody any longer. We might also, bring in someone to rescue that child and say, no, you cannot abuse this child. This child has value. And again, in that subconscious mind, there's power in that. That child goes, oh, I am cared for, I am loved, somebody is willing to protect me. And so therefore, again, it changes the behavior. So that's really the first initial sessions really deal with how do we heal the inner child within, the memories, the trauma. And then beyond that, we can do all sorts of things about finding inner resources. One of my teachers focused on golf. All of his clients are golfers. So he is really dealing with, how do we do peak performance? Where is your own inner powerful golfer that can help you improve your game? So we can deal with peak performance in that way. Phobias, addiction, let's see what else. Also, sometimes we go to past lives. It doesn't really matter if the past life is real. There's this kind of funny thing that we all go to past lives where we're kings and queens and really important people. But again, if we look at it from a metaphor or a story, most times the subconscious mind will bring up a past life because it relates to whatever the behavior or the issue is that the client is presenting in the moment. So in some senses, it doesn't matter whether the past life is real or not real. It has something to teach the client as a way of an inner resource, an inner guide, and again, change the behavior that they're looking to change. The other part of alchemical hypnotherapy is somatic healing. So hypnotherapy in any state will not heal or treat any kind of diseases, but what it does is it supports the body in its own healing. So when we can get out of our way, the body knows what to do. The body knows how to heal itself. And it's when we stop the process that the disease often comes along. So as an adjunctive therapy to regular medical treatment, the body can then shift and change. Because what we've found, research now is showing that in trauma, we actually hold those memories in our body some way. So the muscles, the tendons, the body kind of encapsulates those memories in our body. And when we can go in through hypnotherapy and find that, then it shifts and changes again. So one of the most powerful stories I have for that particular, one that really anchored it for me was, there was an older gentleman that came in and he had this pain in the middle of his back, kind of low back. He'd done all sorts of therapies to try to deal with it, to make it go away, to relieve the pain. And so we were like, well, let's just do a little hypnotherapy on it. So we put him into trance. He went down into the pain and had the pain speak to him about what was going on. And he ended up reliving a memory of when he was about 6 years old, and his father beat him with the buckle into the belt. And so we rescued the inner child. We changed the whole situation inside of his subconscious mind. He came up and got up off the table, and there was no pain. So his body had encapsulated that memory in the middle of his back, and therefore, it just kept niggling at him. And so it's that powerful. The body can just shift and change in a moment, and it empowers, again, the client to do the work that's necessary to do their own healing. One of my favorite parts about alchemical hypnotherapy is called conference room. And some people call it parts work. So oftentimes we'll have two parts of ourselves. One that argues for something, one that argues against something, one that says we can do anything, another one that judges every little tiny thing we do because it's not perfect. So all those voices inside of our head, that's that itty bitty committee I was talking about earlier, they have the ability to just absolutely freeze us in the moment where we can't make a decision because this voice is saying that one's saying this. So in trance, what we do is we actually go in and start catalyzing what those voices are. Is that the judge voice or maybe the rebel voice? And in those archetypal energies, we'll pull them all out so there's not one mess of voices, and we can hear each one clearly. The rebel is saying, no, I'm not going to do this because I don't need to. Or the princess is saying, I don't need to do this because I'm a princess. And in doing that, we can then start to see who has what opinion about the issue at hand. We can put that issue as some sort of symbol in the middle of the conference room table, and everyone can have a voice. The judge says this, the rebel says that, the king says this, and then we can start to create negotiations and contracts with all those different parts of ourselves to find a resolution and a solution to the issue at hand. And then the other thing that happens in conference room that, again, is really powerful is oftentimes we'll find out that that judge voice may have been a teacher, may have been your father, may have been a coach somewhere that says, ring, 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 and we've made that voice our own. So when we find out that it's really an external voice, we can kick that voice out of the conference room. And then the judge can be a clear, clean, archetypal energy that can say, I do have an opinion about this, and we need to follow the rules and laws, and this is how we're going to do it. But it's all out of a benevolent state as opposed to that really niggly, destructive point of view. And when we can find those voices, we'll find, and we start negotiating the stories, the resources, the solution, then what happens is some of those voices just disappear because they've been heard. They don't need to scream at us anymore. They know that they have a voice and a place at the table, and they know that they're going to be listened to. So it's like, a 2-year-old who's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. Those voices don't need to do that anymore. And therefore we have a calmer state. And again, what do we pay attention to? We pay attention to where we find solution as opposed where the trauma is recreated or the victim story is reenacted, and change can happen. Behavior shifts, attitude shifts, the emotional trauma gets kind of mitigated, and it's really powerful. Essential oils have been around since biblical times. King Tut's tomb, they have found the pottery jugs of essential oils. They've been they just stay there all through time. And what essential oils do is they're the essence of the plants. So whether it's a flower or the leaf, sometimes even the wood, the oils are pulled out and distilled so that they are in their pure, organic essence. And just like foods, foods have different properties. Broccoli, cabbage, they all have their own different constituents, chemical, organic, that can support our body in its healthy state. Essential oils are no different. Each one of the oils has a different flavor, so to speak, a different chemical constituents. And in their essence form, again, they can reach every cell of the body very quickly, whether we are just smelling them. In France, they do a lot of aromatherapy with essential oils, whether we take them internally or whether we put them on our skin topically. They can change and shift the energetic frequency of our body. So again, the essential oils won't treat, they won't diagnose, they won't cure, but what they do is they support the body in healing itself. We can use them on children, on ourselves. I use them on our dogs quite a bit. We've got one little dog that has cancer that she just loves the essential oils. They do something different than any of the other drugs that she's taking at the time. So as an adjunctive therapy, they can really support the body to promote health, maintain health. The essential oils can promote, maintain, and support health in a way that regular foods don't, because they're at their essence and purity and really a strength that is different than food. So the essential oils, again, because of the sense and the energetic value of them, can go straight into that limbic brain where that subconscious mind is located and shift and change. So with the hypnotherapy process, sometimes people are resistant to going back into those old traumatic memories for whatever reason, and yet they come and say, I need help with this issue. So oftentimes the essential oils will help them kind of break up the resistance a little bit and go into the memory knowing that they're being supported in a different way. And then the other side of that is oftentimes we can find an oil that will help support them in the process of healing. And that can be, lavender is a calming oil. Orange, they're finding, is a more uplifting of the mood oil. So we can find a lot of different single oils or combinations that can then support the process of moving through the trauma, the memories, and then getting to a healing and a really resolution of the issue at hand. Okay, so with the essential oils, there is a lot of information. And what I found was that many people were reluctant to use the oils because they just didn't know where to start or how to look at the chemical values, the chemicals that are in the oils, and go, okay, what does this do? And so therefore they were at a stuck place. So what I decided to do is to simplify everything and say, all right, here's the basics. Here you have 7 different orange family, citrus family oils. And this is what they do, this is what they don't do, this is how you can remember what they do and how to use them. And I like teaching. I like to bridge people and simplify knowledge so that it's usable, because if we can't use it, then it's not worth anything. And with the power of the oils, if people have all the oils but they don't do anything, then it's kind of a moot point. Why do you even have them? So we're finding that we're having a lot of fun. What does grapefruit do versus orange versus petitgrain? And people are really enjoying the classes and using the oils much more often because they have an inkling, they know where to start, they have a way to kind of get into the oils. So we're having a really good time with it. Yes, I've been a Reiki master teacher for, wow, I've been a Reiki master teacher since probably 1992. And at the time, Reiki was pretty new to the United States. And Reiki is all about channeling the life force energy that is present in the world. That energy is everywhere, whether it's on the ground or earth or sky, in our bodies. And so the Reiki is really, I'm not the one that's doing the healing energy. I'm just opened up as a channel for the energy to come through. And in that energetic body, similar to what I was talking about in the physical body, it too can have energy blocks to it. So what the Reiki does is it adds energy to the client's energy field in their physical body, and it starts breaking up those patterns of holding on. And in that, just like the dam and the river, when the water starts flowing, then the healing can come. The oxygen moves through the body differently. The energy, if you're looking at Chinese meridians in Chinese medicine, they move differently. So therefore, having the energy flows in the body can really allow the healing to occur, because when we don't have energy, when we don't have blood flow, when we don't have oxygen going to all the different parts of our body, then we're not going to, something's going to suffer. Something's going to be less than, and our immune system then is compromised. So the Reiki energy really breaks that up in the energetic body and allows the flow to occur again and move through, and healing occurs. I graduated from the University of Oregon in 1981 with an architecture degree, and had decided that I was going to move to Seattle, be this great architect. And in 1981, that's when the economy crashed and Boeing laid off 5,000 people that year. So I did not go to Seattle, and ended up in Los Angeles, where I obtained my architectural license and was an architect for quite a few years in Los Angeles. Since then, I have become a single mom and have gone through, I think, 2 or 3 other economic crises where, like the last one in 2009, the economy was so bad here in Arizona that the architecture profession, I think the unemployment was up around 95%. And so even though architecture is a great love of mine, the up and down nature of that career choice has been not so fun to go through. And then also when I became the single mom, there were a lot of hours that I worked being an architect, so I couldn't do that and be the kind of mom that I wanted to be. So that's when I went to massage training and did my alchemical hypnotherapy training and learned a lot about how to heal. And that was really powerful. I was able to go to lobster trips out in the ocean with my daughter and her school, and be home after school. So that was, it really created a balance in my life that I didn't know and didn't have when I was in the architectural field. So, and it's funny, the body is not so different from a building. We have electrical supplies, we have breathing systems or mechanical. So there's a great kind of reference to, between architecture and the body, and how do we create the beauty and the design that we want to create, for health, for balance, work and play, childhood, parenting. All those things have to come into the design to make it happen, to make it work. So I really love the metaphor of architecture in what I do. And it brings a lot of understanding to the structure and the play and interplay as a whole, instead of deciphering and pulling apart and saying, okay, we're only going to look at the circulatory system. Well, we can't do that in architecture, and we really can't do that with the body, with this container that we live in either. So therefore, it seems like when people first ask me about it, it seems like 2 very distinctly different and paradoxical things to bring together in the way I work, but it really works for me. Yeah, it really works. So therefore, you're looking at the structure of the body, how our anatomy and physiology is, looking at how the energy flows through the body, looking at how one part feeds another part in a positive way, and then also what happens when one part isn't functioning. How does that impact the rest of the system? How does how do we bring it back into balance? So therefore, my love of architecture and design and figuring things out and researching all come distinctly into play with the way I work with my clients and following the storyline. Where does the design, where's the shade and shadow, the light and the dark, and the thresholds, the doorways, the gateways, all those architectural metaphors are always right there in what I do. So it's a good thing. Yeah, I like the way it works together. I would say, the last thing I would want anyone to know is that you have the power to change. You are not a victim. In making the choice of what to pay attention to is a great act of a warrior. To quiet the voices inside of your head that are telling you you are less than. You don't have to pay attention to those any longer. And to make that first step, the first step to change, the first step to really go into that which is holding you back, whether it's trauma, whether it's, whatever it is. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability, and yet it is worthless. It is priceless. It is a way to make changes in your life that you never knew were possible. And going through into your subconscious mind, I can tell you that that place inside yourself, all things are possible. All change is right there. And whatever you're dealing with, your higher self, your inner knowing, your wisdom within, whatever you want to call that, it has a solution. It has a strategy. It has many possibilities present for the change to occur. And if you make the choice to go into it, you can go through it, and you will be different on the other side. No matter what, there will be change. And so therefore, I would say take the first step. Take the first step and find someone that can help you go into that place, go into the old wounding and heal the wounds. And they say that our body can reformulate every cell every 7 years. And if that's true, then it's only us. It is our memory, our emotional attachment to the trauma that keeps recreating it. So therefore, shift your mind, make the change your behavior. It's that simple. I know it seems like a big thing. I know it seems insurmountable at times, but it's just like a muscle we need to train. You make that first step, you change the muscle memory, and shift occurs. It's just like, I train martial arts, so it's no different. I go in there and I'm like, oh my God, I got to do martial arts today. And I learn something new about myself. And every day I go back and train, I shift as a person. Going into the subconscious mind, going into those traumas is no different. It's just practice. It's just making the choice to change and move forward instead of always being pulled back into what happened before.